or what have you. But we have a lot of guys as well that go over to other countries to purchase sex from these girls.
It's illegal though, isn't it?
It is.
You know about this. We're talking about it on television. Don't the police know about this too?
They do. And one of our focuses, and just like some other groups that work in this field too, is actually training law enforcement and training social service, first responders. Those are the groups that are initially working with these girls when there's an arrest made, when there's a raid that happens, something like that. So our initial goal is to train those specific groups. But as a result of doing a lot of awareness events in churches and places in the community, we've had, parents who want training. We have coaches, we have counselors, we have pastors. We have people from all walks of life who have wanted more efficient training. So we've actually expanded our trainings so that we can help people to identify, what these girls look like, the families they come from, how to report cases, how to be involved, how to talk about it in their everyday life. And it's made a pretty drastic difference over the last few years.
Well, what do they look like? I mean, if I'm in a mall, should I be on the lookout for children who are likely to become slaves?
Yeah, typically, it's going to be within a mall. It's usually in the food court when you first enter the mall, and it's a girl, particularly with an older guy. It's a girl who, her demeanor and her countenance seems low. It's someone who probably is either dressed, like someone in prostitution would be dressed, or it could just be a girl who's dressed, kind of raggedy, type. Seems like she doesn't have much of a support system. Maybe she feels like she's, being forced to do something, or she feels uncomfortable. So we teach people how to look at facial expressions. We teach people how to, particularly if there's an older guy that's with her, a lot of times they take them into the back hallways, of malls or in the restrooms, to rape them directly in the mall. So we teach people, where the places are and, what they look like. So I'd say excessive amounts of cash, on someone, drug paraphernalia, the low countenance, low self-esteem, the sense of just her looking like she's uncomfortable, looking like she's not doing things of her own volition. Those are just a few of the things.
No offense, Phil, but this sounds pretty tough life. How do you sleep?
Yeah, it does take a thick skin to be involved with this. And really, the problem is overwhelming. If we focused on the numbers and we focused strictly on the victimization and we looked at this, we would be depressed. And really what I have to look at is the solutions at the end of the day. So how I've chosen to view this and how I've done this for a number of years now and will do this the rest of my life is to focus always on the solutions, because these girls need to be empowered, and so do these men. And I think that one of the things that I'm really focused on is focusing on recovery for these men. The society has a tendency to label these men as creeps, as monsters, and they're...
Yes, that's exactly what I would say if anyone would come close to my daughter, because I have an 11-year-old.
Yeah, and their behavior is absolutely unexcusable. Their behavior is not acceptable. They should, they should go to jail. They should go to prison. They should pay astronomical fines. So legislatively, there's been people who, including myself, who have been working on that to make sure that justice, is served, that the families feel that they've, are protected, and these girls feel that this pimp's not going to come back and get them, and he pays for what he did. So there is that side. But if we're looking at this problem and we are looking at what we call demand reduction, and we're looking at solving this problem, we have to focus on how can we empower both the girls who have been victimized and the families who have suffered, but also we have to look at how do we empower these men. Because if we don't give them alternatives, and if we don't show them how to change their thinking, if we don't give them opportunities, chances are they're going to end up doing the same thing again after they are released from prison, and these girls will still be victimized, or new girls will be victimized at the hands of the same men.
Well, what's the opportunity for a pimp?
It's very difficult, and just like if you were, one of these girls, now there's a stigma that's attached to you by society. So it's harder to get jobs, it's harder to, pursue education because society perceives you a certain way. So that's what we're doing with these girls, with these families, and also with these men, is helping to provide those opportunities. We actually go before employment agencies. We go, with them to counseling. We go with them to provide opportunities and be a voice, for both the girl or for the men, to help really give them opportunities. And there are certain credentials that they have to provide, these places to show that it's proven, it's all tracked on what they've been a part of so that there's a way to track that. So I think all of that helps, but it is very difficult once you've made some of these decisions or once you've been victimized in a certain way. Those situations are very difficult, and it's even difficult, I'd say more so for the women, just to even know that you can make a decision for yourself, just to know that you have a voice, that you have an opinion. So before we even get to employment opportunities or education, we've got to even just get them to a point to where they know that their opinion matters, their voice matters, that they're a human being, and that they can make decisions for themselves.
Let's get to some happy things. You have some success stories.
Yeah. There's been a few girls that we've worked with, obviously, over the last several years. A couple that stand out to me. There was one girl who I had met, and she was trafficked on Backpage.com, the website I mentioned earlier, for 108 days, all up and down the West Coast. And, these guys, they lured her to parties, they used her in hotel rooms, they exploited her on Backpage. She was used at truck stops, along I-5, countless times a night. And basically, there was a sting operation that happened. We were able to rescue her from that situation. And ever since that happened, over the last several years, her family is still in counseling, still receiving services. The daughter is now been at home. She's also in counseling. But her mom actually has taken it upon herself to protect her daughter and to protect other girls by focusing on legislative efforts. So in January of 2012, there was 12 new laws that were introduced to the legislature here in Washington, and her mom introduced 6 of those laws. So very significant difference that her mom is making in how her story is being utilized to help rescue other girls.
I know everybody out there, though, they want me to ask this question. I mean, where was the mom before? Where was the family before? I mean, was where the dad was gone and there was no assistance there? But still, I mean, this is an extreme situation. 108 straight days being marketed on a website?
Yeah. And Stan, when we talk about this, and we did earlier, I mentioned that there's at-risk, environments, or this girl came from a vulnerable place. There's also girls out there who go to church. They're part of youth groups. They're just part of the working class, if you will, while they're supporting themselves going to college. And this girl did not come from an at-risk environment. She did not have a set of unfortunate circumstances. She was a good kid. And she was able to be susceptible to this through, some different advertisements for job opportunities. And that's what I mean. You can come from those environments, or you can just be a normal, average, everyday kid and still fall prey to this through the lures of these men. So we've got to pay attention to that. And so that's how that happened. We have another gal. She's now a mom. But when she was younger, she was raped at a party, and that led to her actually being exploited on the streets. She was in street prostitution for a number of years. That's when her daughter was actually born, when she was used in prostitution. That's when she conceived. And so she's just had a number of challenges ever since she was rescued to help overcome, and now learning to, raise her daughter, learning how to, what to say, when not to say it, and how to tell her daughter about even what happened, So those are just 2 success stories that we've had, over a number of them that really have had an impact on a local and national scale. When it comes to both empowering women, also getting men to take a look at this is, a result of your decisions. You can either make a negative decision that will lead to other girls being in these situations, or you can make positive ones that will allow for, the empowerment of women and the success of women.
So there is a long-term future for both women and men who are involved in this?
Absolutely. And these girls, our goal, and when they're enrolled into direct service programs, which are initially upon rescue. So this is where they're going to receive initial health treatment, some job placement, some urgent counseling, things of that nature. She usually would go from there to a safe house environment. Now, when I say safe homes, those are safe, they're therapeutic, they're long-term facilities where this girl can recover from this. She can be empowered. She can cultivate a sense of family and protection, within these facilities. And right now, they're very limited. There's only about 150 beds across all 50 states right now that we can actually say are a part of a safe house facility.
Really?
Very, very low number.
But we're talking about thousands of children who are in the slavery situation.
In the United States, when it comes to domestic minors under 18, it's between 100 to 300,000. So we're talking much more than what we actually have services available for. So we have a lot of work to do in terms of providing more services. But there is a future, and that's what we focus on. We focus on, empowering those who have been abused, those who have been trafficked, those who have been violated in this way, to empower them, to show them that they can make their own choices, to show them that they can make different decisions than what they grew up in, they can have a positive future. That's our whole goal.
But, they still have to be fed, they still have to have clothes, they still have to have a place to sleep. That costs money.
That's right.
How is this all being done?
Yeah. Most organizations that work in this field along with us, a lot of grants, provide for this. It's long-term funding. Typically you can get more, at a time. There's a lot of contingencies usually on grants and qualifications and reporting and different things. But those are usually used for long-term services or to fund programs within an organization. There's also corporate sponsors, businesses, that we come in contact with that want to support our work. The local church, is a part of that. Private donors are a part of that. Fundraisers, that